Welcome back. So glad you could join us once again. Now, next to me is a face that by now is familiar. This guy right here is going to be talking about not the stroopwafel, but another round object, a circle, I believe. I'm going to hand the floor to Chris van der Belt to talk about the circle of collaboration. Give him a big round of applause.
Thank you very much. Before we dive into the circle, let's first start with why collaboration is important. We already saw that uptime is the most important KPI for you as an asset manager. And we also saw that the biggest risk to uptime is a poor communication between teams. And next to that, there's also an interesting correlation between the maturity of an asset management organization and how they rate the cooperation with, in this case, the operations department. With organizations with a lower maturity, mostly reactive maintenance, they rate the maturity of the operations cooperation as below average and as good for the ones with a more proactive approach and a more mature asset management organization. And this also applies for the cooperation with the HSE department, safety, and the management. And of course, this correlation is no proof that a better cooperation automatically leads to more uptime, but I think we can state that maturity and cooperation go hand in hand, and that there is value in improving it. So let's have a closer look to the cooperation between maintenance and the operations department in a situation where it needs improving and where it works well. First of all, it's about communication, which there is not in the first group. They are basically pointing at each other. And in the other group, there's regular meetings, short communication lines, and they know where to find each other. But it's not only that, it's also about mindset. The we use and you fix mindset on the first group, instead of we cooperate or we maintain and operate together. And this is also about responsibilities and about incentives. Because you can imagine that the maintenance team is really focused on preventive maintenance tasks or the preventive corrective ratio. And if the production team is focused on producing items, then it's no wonder that, of course, they don't feel that it's their job to keep the machines clean or to help prevent failures. And if the production department becomes responsible for cleaning the asset, it's more likely that they treat their assets with respect, and that leads to fewer failures. And if both departments will share the same goal, like reduce unplanned downtime or lower the mean time to repair, then it's more likely that they start cooperating with each other to prevent failures and set faster diagnosis. And if something goes wrong in case of a failure, the maintenance department is involved too late. Operators tend to try to fix it themselves first, and if they do so, the failure reports contain too little information, and then the mechanic just has to figure it out. And this makes it difficult to set a diagnosis. The last one for this cooperation team is good coordination and planning, which is about planned downtime. If the production department keeps communicating planned downtime to the maintenance department, or maybe even better, plan it together, then plant maintenance will be less disruptive for production. Let's see how that goes for HSE. We see basically the same things. Lack of communication, big distance, safety department reacting too slow instead of short communication lines on the other hand. What we also found out in the results of the trend report is that the safety department is really focused on rules instead of practice, and that the communication is often driven by them due to audits, and that their technical knowledge is perceived as too little to address risks in real life. We also heard the quote that the HSE team is giving the maintenance team even more problems to solve instead of solutions. So, on the other hand, of course, safety is seen as the added value instead of a complication. And it's always the first thing on the agenda in the morning meetings. So, to summarize, make sure that you set the same goals, that you have seen the joint interest, that you need each other for that. Make sure that you facilitate structured communication, improve failure reports in order to have a faster diagnosis, and coordinate and leverage the planned downtime. This brings us to the circle of collaboration, where we see these three departments: maintenance, operations, and HSE. On the outside of the circle, we see their processes, by the primary department who uses them, or the modules in Ultimo. And in the inside of the circle, we see the role of each department to these processes of the other departments. For instance, the operations department. They're having a big role in work order management. Of course, they request modifications, they report failures. And in the food industry, they even sign off jobs to validate that everything is clean. But there's also providing a safe environment for the maintenance team by work permits, lockout, tagout. And they are requested by the maintenance department, of course. And they, on the other hand, have a role in the production by analyzing and fixing downtime, of course, joining the daily meetings, etc. And also the safety department facilitates the other departments. So I think one thing is clear, that none of these modules, the use of the modules are limited to just one department, but they are designed to stimulate and facilitate the collaboration between these departments. And that's really a matter of teamwork. Let's move on to a couple of examples. First of all, shift handover. Let me have some water first. Regular meetings, good communications are facilitated by shift handover. The logbook is used by operators to share important information across shifts with each other and with the other departments. And also meeting lists can be used to share information through departments. And also in this mobile solution for logbooks for operators, they can report failures, report downtime, HSE incidents, etc. So that's basically their tool to connect with the rest of the organization. Another one is autonomous maintenance. When we introduced the Operations Suite, we have enriched the shift handover module with autonomous maintenance functionality for operators to handle their cleaning tasks, their lubrication tasks, inspections. And this gives the maintenance team more focus on plant maintenance, modifications, etc. And that'll lead to less downtime, higher availability, and eventually lower costs. The asset planner is not only a great tool to visualize all asset-related work and use it as a scheduler, but it also enables you to collaborate with the production department to plan downtime together. The green area you see there is the time frame where the production is down, and it enables you to reschedule jobs that are now planned inefficiently. Another one is better failure reports. How can we do that? I think basically using the mobile solution already helps a lot. The first question is always, where exactly is it? Which asset or which part is failing? And using barcode scanning or QR codes or even NFC tags who still work when the environment is dirty or when they are damaged. And if the assets are in the outside world instead of your building, using GPS also allows you to find the exact location. And then what it is. Next to text, of course, you can take a picture or even a video and link it to your job report in Ultimo. And the last one is a new one. Maybe in the second version of the Circle of Collaboration, we should add IT. Because how are you cooperating with the IT department? With the modernization of assets, more and more components are IT components with software. And you can imagine that a software update can also cause a failure. So the interaction with the production department can be way better. And they are used to work with ITSM or ITIL processes. And Ultimo already offers a module for ITSM using ITIL. And we are thinking of, in the next months, integrating this module more and more with the technical asset structure, which makes it easier for you as departments to cooperate with each other. This was the last topic about cooperation. I think what you've already seen is the importance of cooperation. And if you want to check, set the next step in the maturity ladder, if you are considering next steps, for instance, predictive maintenance, IoT, connecting your assets, I think my free advice to you, not completely free for the guys here who have bought a ticket to be here, but is to is to make sure that your people are connected first. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. That was a wonderful insight. Now, before we continue with some of the questions that are coming into the chat, I want to see if we have any questions in the audience. I have Ewout on standby with a hand mic. Anyone that has a question that he or she wants to put to our speaker? If not, think about a question. I'll try you with a question first. Maybe a question pops into your head. Okay, so you were talking about autonomous maintenance. I want to understand how hard of a requirement some of those components are. Let's say that my company doesn't necessarily work with the shift handover. Would it still be possible for me to use the operations suite?
Yeah, I understand the question, because I said it's integrated in our shift handover module, and we get that question more often. What we did is we put it into the shift handover module because that is the portal for the operator. So that's the most logical place to do so. But not every organization works in shifts, of course. Sometimes you only have day shifts or don't do the shift handover in Ultimo. Maybe you use another tool for that. Then you still can use the same module for your autonomous maintenance tasks. And the shift logs can be created automatically in the background. So it's not necessary to use the shift handover functionality. And yeah, we just basically put those two modules in one license.
Wonderful, thanks. While I look around, if you have a question, please do raise your hand. We'll make sure that the question gets answered. For now, I also would like to understand how flexible of a solution is this? I mean, not every company is the same, not every department is the same. They have different requirements. Is there room for customization, or is that something that you would advise against?
Of course, just like in the other parts of Ultimo, customization is possible. A lot of customization can be done using the master data, of course. You can handle all types of different tasks. You can define them yourselves. But also if the mobile process will be a little bit different, there are opportunities to customize that. But I, as a product manager, hope that it's not necessary to do so. If you have requirements to that module, let us know. Then we will consider to put it in the standard product. Like Ewout already told, next week can be at your environment.
Yes. I'm looking around if there are any questions. Yes, I see a raised hand. Mike.
Yes. Varo, one of the members of the customer panel.
Yeah. How far do you want to go in this interface? You said there's this IT platform. We do believe that we should go a bit further in this OEE registration.
Yeah.
Or downtime registration. Where does Ultimo stop, and when do you hand it over to another software system, and how do you see that interface?
Very good question. In the downtime registration at Ultimo, we really focus on the mechanical failures. So in the OEE, we start with all time, then we have the planned downtime, the running time, etc., back to the quality loss and operation loss. And what we focus on is the mechanical failure. So those downtimes or outages can be interfaced with Ultimo, they can be entered by operators. But this is the part where we focus on, because that is also the part where the maintenance manager has influence in. And I think quality loss or performance loss is something you should really measure using an OEE tool. And that's also something we can integrate with. We can import downtimes with those tools. And I think the nice thing of interfacing that with Ultimo is that when the technical team has the solution and fixes these issues, you also know the causes afterwards. And then you can identify which components caused the most downtime. And that makes your maintenance more efficient.
Maybe it's good to know that we have standard integration with Good Solutions, one of our tech partner organizations. And also maybe good to mention, Chris, because you explained a little bit about the integration of IT within equipment and ITSM and so on, those kind of processes. If we look at the healthcare market, especially the hospitals, we see a lot of integrations already. Can you explain a little bit more on that?
Yeah, what we see in healthcare is that medical assets also contain a lot of IT elements. You can imagine those towers always consist of a computer and, for instance, scanning or echo equipment. So what we already see there is that the medical department and the IT department sometimes also in the organizations are coming together. So that's where we already, I think this was 2 years ago, integrated IT functionality in the medical assets back office. So that means that you can also register software, for instance, in your medical assets. And we see the same trend now in IT. At this moment, already 2 customers at the same time are configuring the fact that CIs, configuration items, can be built in the process function structure. And this is something we are considering now for the standard product. So I think we see the same trend in the industry now.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we're out of out of time for further questions. Chris can talk for hours, but we have to move on. Thanks once again, Chris.
Thank you very much.
We'll be back in 4 minutes with the next session.